Hi everyone, I'm here today to do a review on my 1997 Mazda Miata. Today's a bittersweet day. I'm selling it after having owned it for just over a year, but in that time I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm just going to go over some things that I've really enjoyed about the car and some things that could be improved. So this was a 1997 Touring Edition. It has the 14-inch stock alloy wheels on it. The sport and the soft top, no hard top came with it. It's got the 1.8 liter engine. What really attracted me about this particular car was that it is all original, so it hadn't been modified in any questionable ways. It does have the pop-up headlights. And whenever you're buying a car, it's always nice from a reliability perspective to get the last car model year of the generation. So this is a 97, and that was the last model year of the first generation Miata. So I'll go over some things that I did to it, some things to look for when you're purchasing the car, and just general things that I enjoyed about it. So first, let's pop the hood. Now the hood is super lightweight. I believe it's aluminum. And that's the 1.8 liter 4-cylinder engine. Now when I got the car, you could see there was some oil leakage around here. I replaced the gasket, the PCV valve, and the crossover tube there. I also put new NDK wires on it and new spark plugs. All of that maintenance is very easy to do. And when I was at it, I also removed the valve cover and replaced the CAS O-ring, which is the camshaft angle sensor gasket that's located back there. And there's oil leaking from there too. So that was all very simple maintenance to do. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about this car, was it has modern day reliability, but it's simple enough to work on before things got complicated. A lot of people put cold air intakes on them, but the supposed cold air intakes are right above the exhaust manifold, which kind of negates the purpose. So I like this one. It was all stock, intake setup there. And if you're going to be purchasing a used NA Miata, make sure you look at the shock mounts, which are right here. These are newer shock mounts, and that's what they should look like. You can look at examples online of worn shock mounts, and on the Flying Miata website, they have a good example of that. But that's one of the items I also replaced, along with new shocks and bump stops and boots. Flying Miata does make an intake that pretty much changes this intake tube right here and pulls in air through the firewall underneath the cowl area. And I know that's supposed to gain you a couple horsepower, but then you're cutting into the firewall. What I really enjoyed was that this car was completely unmolested, and I didn't want to do anything like that. Alright, now let's take a look inside the car. And the Touring Edition has the leather wrapped steering wheel, and even though this is all beat up and old leather, the actual quality of the leather is much better than on my 2015 CX-5 SUV. You can just tell it was real leather. It has a 7,000 RPM red line. It's very good on gas. I get around 29 miles to the gallon. The oil pressure on the older NAs wasn't an accurate representation of what was going on with your oil pressure, but it ran off a algorithm. So some people like to upgrade these older NA models to earlier oil pressure gauge. It has the CD and the cassette, which I thought was really neat. It took me back to my childhood until I realized how awful cassettes really are. The HVAC works pretty good for a car this size. The heat works good. AC works good. This is one of my favorite parts about the car is the shifter. I rebuilt the shifter with parts off of 5X Racing, and it's just an amazing throw to it. Just the perfect amount of notchiness, the perfect length of throws. Definitely one of my favorite parts of the car. The cup holders are actually more useful, or the whole center console is really more useful than my NC Miata. I usually put my cell phone right in there with the Google Maps on, and that does the trick for navigation. Unlike the latest generation, it has a glove box, which is a reasonable size, and the locks, which is nice. So you can put all your CDs, cassettes, and operating manual in there. The seats are comfortable enough, but if you're over, I would say 5'10", the headrests don't come up high enough. They addressed that in the later Miatas, but if you're over 5'10", you're gonna find that, you know, your head is gonna extend above the height of the headrest. And this one has the zip out plastic window, which I would say I actually enjoyed more than the glass window with the froster that my NB Miata had, just because I generally only drive the car with the top down anyway, so the glass defroster really wasn't as nice as this one, where you're able to fold it out and just kind of roll down your windows and get the air going through the sides and the back of the car while you still have shade above you. The trunk is a good size. Right now I have in here a Mosin Plus car cover, which I recommend if you're going to be keeping the vehicle outdoors. It really beads off light rain, and it dries out pretty quickly too after rainfall. I have some 303 top protectors in here, as well as the Redline manual transmission, gear fluid, and Mobil 1 10W30 synthetic, which I used. Your battery is going to be located in your trunk, as with the second generation. I find the sportiness of the stock exhaust to be right where I want it. One of the great things about these cars is there's a lot of aftermarket parts available, but they're just so good stock. It's really up to you. You can really, you know, modify the car to fit your needs if you want, or just leave it stock as I have. One of the things I would recommend is taking a close look around both your wheel arches and your rocker panels for rust. When I first purchased this car, it was kept in my garage, and I really wasn't too concerned about the rust. But if you're going to keep it outside, as I've had to do for the last couple months, the rust is going to get worse, and that's going to be something that needs to be addressed in the future. I wouldn't worry about it too much if there's just a little bit. If you're going to be keeping it indoors, if you're going to be keeping it outdoors and it's just a little bit, then I would recommend getting it taken care of as soon as you can. So I've owned all three generations of the Mazda Miata, and the first generation is by far my favorite. It's just got that right blend of retro styling, retro feel, lightweight, reliability, that makes it such like a really fun sporting car. And I think the two generations that followed were better cars, but they just didn't have that lightweight feel and that steering feel and that perfect shifter that really puts you in full contact with the road. So those are some things to look for with the Mazda Miata and my review after having owned it for over a year. Happy motoring. Okay, here's my top 5 favorite things about my 1997 Mazda Miata MX-5. Number 1 would be the sensation of speed. I'm completely satisfied with the power that came from the factory on this car. I just love being able to shift through the gears, rev it out to 7,000 RPM, and it feels like you're going so fast, like you're breaking all the speed limits. And then you look down and you're doing 50 miles an hour. So I never really felt like this car was slow, even though it's not fast by any stretch of the imagination, but I just really love that sensation of speed. The second thing, my top 5 favorite things would be just the handling feel, just how communicative the steering wheel transmits what's going on the road. Steering feel with the hydraulic power assist, I don't think it can be beat. Number 3 on that list would be shifter. I mean, it's just such a great shifter. Perfect short throws. Awesome action. Just being able to rest your elbow on the center console. So shifter would be number 3. Number 4 would be just the ease it is to work on. Very easy car to work on. Easily available to get parts. And it's just a really fun car to wrench on. And my number 5 favorite thing would just be the retro feel of this car now. It's a 97, but it does have the pop-up headlights. And it's got like the single finger latches on the outside door, which are really nice. It's got everything that you need and nothing that you don't. So that's my top 5 favorite things about my 1997 Mazda Miata.